Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the RA Group Future of Hospitality series. Thank you all for joining, and today we are talking to some of the leading figures in the cafe and coffee industry to discuss the future of cafes on the high street and how cafes in the B&I industry will respond to the challenges post the COVID-19 crisis. Coffee is an integral part of our sector business, and we have seen consistent growth in the market over the past few years on both the high street and within our B&I and venues businesses. The importance our consumers put on coffee was highlighted to me when speaking to a client recently, and they remarked that the one thing they missed from their morning commute was their flat white. Believe me, I feel their pain. RA Group are very lucky to have some amazing coffee partners, and on that note, I would like to welcome our panel for today. We have Duncan Kendall, who's the MD of Extract Coffee, Max Dubiel, who's the co-founder of Redemption Roasters, and Matt Keech, the CCO of Hey Coffee. And we also have our very own RA Group Head of Coffee and Community, Sonia Carvalho. I'm going to first ask the panel to talk a little bit about their businesses and how they got into the coffee industry. Duncan, tell us a little bit about yourself and Extract Coffee.
Cheers, Shaun. So I'm the MD of Extract Coffee Roasters. We're a full service coffee roastery. We roast beautiful green coffees and send them out to a bunch of wholesale customers plus customers at home. It's a business that's been in existence for about 12 years. And actually, I came across Extract when I was running my own business probably 10 years ago. I started a business up, and Extract Coffee were one of my first suppliers. I took them with me into my new business, and then I was a customer of theirs from home. And really sort of fell in love at that point with specialty coffee, but also with Extract Coffee Roasters. Just was a great business that I kind of connected with. And over that period of time, wherever I've moved on in my personal life and in work, I've always taken Extract Coffee with me. And the opportunity came up probably 2 or 3 years ago, really, just to start having some meaningful conversations with one of the co-owners that incidentally I met at Restaurant Associates. I met one of the co-owners of Extract whilst we both worked for RA. And we'd stayed in touch, and he, got to that point 2 or 3 years ago where we'd had a couple of coffees or maybe a couple of beers on that first occasion, and we discussed the idea of me coming to join this company. So yeah, we're a full service roastery, and we send out beautiful coffee. We help people to make it. We help them make coffee in the workplace and at home, and we support them with all the tools they need to do a great job of making great coffee.
Thanks, Duncan. Max, how did you get into the coffee industry, and tell us about Redemption Roasters?
Absolutely, yes. So we started Redemption Roasters about 4.5 years ago. We were initially just a wholesaler and roaster of a number of brands. And then we were approached by the Ministry of Justice asking us whether we could do some barista training in a prison. And we thought that sounds like an interesting opportunity, never been to prison before. And we actually suggested to them that we would open up a roastery in a prison and brand it around the concept of training offenders in coffee skills. The coffee industry is fast growing, and so we did. A year later, we opened the roastery, and now we've got 5 coffee shops throughout London where we serve our coffee, and we've got about 120 wholesale clients, and RA is one of our largest clients, and we're very happy to, much like Duncan, support our clients with training, with machinery. And yes, and we also have a website, a web store where people can buy our coffee, and that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Max. Matt, tell us a little bit about Hey and your coffee background.
Yeah, thank you. I come from New Zealand, and I fell in love with the coffee scene in Wellington about 30 years ago. And when I moved to the UK about 20 years ago, I didn't know that I was going to get back into coffee so soon. It was a new journey for me, but I just got stuck in the industry, if you like. I couldn't really get away from it. Hey has been going for about 5 years. We've really thought about our position in the community, and we're a neighbourhood coffee shop. We've got 2 stores. One's a roastery in Elephant and Castle. The other is our flagship store in Bermondsey. We've got another 2 that were due to be open already, but with this current situation, they're on hold for the moment. We've worked with Restaurant Associates since the very beginning for about 5 years, and we've grown with them and grown up with them. And it's a great relationship. We really support and look at everything we can do in terms of our footprint around CSR. We've got an electric fleet. We deliver coffee by bike. We have a training centre. So all of the normal stuff, but really it's the passion for not only just coffee, but the passion for people, which is an interesting topic at the moment with social distancing and how coffee can still work as it once did, with customers and baristas engaging in the way we were used to.
Right. Thanks, Matt, and it's been a pleasure working with you over the years, and working with all of you over the years, actually. So it's really good. Sonia, bearing in mind you're actually called Sonia Coffee on my phone, can you tell us a little bit about your role and your background, please?
Yeah, so I've worked with RA for almost 6 years now, and I'm sure lots of you will know me. I support all of our coffee education, and I consult with a lot of our clients on different solutions for them. And yeah, I've always been crazy passionate about coffee. People and coffee are my favourite things, and so yeah, luckily, very luckily, working for RA, they created a role for me which kind of sang to all the things I love and I'm passionate about. So yeah, absolutely super excited about today, because we've got all of the gang here ready to kind of answer some questions and talk to everyone around the challenges that we're facing at the moment, and what the new world's going to look like. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a tea drinker, I was converted into coffee by you, Sonia. So thank you for that.
Awesome. Love that.
So thank you everyone for your introductions. Just a reminder to all on the webcast to please post any questions you may have for the panel during this Q&A. And I'm going to start off with a few questions of my own. So Duncan, this is one for you. During the lockdown and with the reduction in corporate and high street volumes, have you found any other avenues to keep revenue moving?
Yeah, look, I mean, we saw a kind of 98% reduction in our sales pretty much overnight. But we were fortunate in some respects because we had a web shop that was already set up and was ticking along quite nicely. It was never the sole focus of the company. It represented about 4% of our revenue. And funnily enough, a week or two before lockdown, I was having a conversation with our head of marketing about the web shop customer. You know, they're probably the most loyal bunch we've got. They never interact with us face to face. They never ask us to go in and do any training in their houses. They never ask us to go in and fix their machine. You know, they sit there kind of quietly clicking away, and we just send coffee in. And it struck me that 2020 would be the year that we really try to focus in on that group. Well, you know, a week later, suddenly we were doing it now, and we kind of had to learn on the job a little bit. What we found was that what we decided was we really wanted to communicate with those guys a lot, but not in a way that we were just kind of spamming them with sales stuff. We didn't want to be on their case, you know, encouraging them to buy all the time. But we wanted to stay relevant. We wanted to keep communicating. And we decided that we would just be a spreader of good news. And we've spent a lot of time and energy on particularly Instagram stories. We've been sharing a lot of love of our other hero brands that we work with, great community initiatives that we see, and really just keeping in touch with people and sharing positive news. That was one thing. And the other thing then was actually there was a commerce aspect to it as well. We did need to sell coffee. So we realized that the newsletter was very, very powerful, directly kind of communicating with our customers in their homes. And we put some effort into growing our newsletter base and sending out more regular newsletters, communicating more directly with people. And it's had a great effect. You know, our web shop business has grown by about 400%. We've grown it by about 400%, which is incredible. It's still a tiny proportion. It's tiny, but overall it gives us a great feeling. You know, it means that we continue roasting coffee. It means that I'm just beginning to start unfurloughing people because I've got a higher demand for coffee, so I can start to unfurlough, which is brilliant. And this week we're actually going to launch some new coffees. So we're going to start roasting some new coffees that I wasn't sure we would get to, you know. So it's been a lifeline. It's been a lifeline in terms of commercials coming in, but it's also been a lifeline in terms of a kind of force of positivity for us as a business, really.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's because it's a pretty tough world out there. Any opportunity to get the get your coffee out is it's got to be taken, isn't it? So Max, have you found the same sort of thing?
Similar experience here. Overnight, our revenues, both in retail as well as in wholesale, dropped by about 95%. So the one thing that did benefit was our web store. Revenues there went sort of up 10-fold, 15-fold overnight. Again, a web store that wasn't really well laid out and nothing we ever put a lot of attention into suddenly was our only source of revenue. And it'll be interesting to see how many of those clients we can retain. Really hope we can retain as many as possible, but we do realize that a lot of people will prefer to go to shop rather than brew at home on their daily commute. Also, people just have a lot less time in their normal routines. Now I think people are finding that they have the time to grind and watch videos, and I think now, as Duncan already touched on, is a time to engage with your end customers as well. So we've been publishing brewing videos, brew guides, and we've started developing an app that we can use to engage with our customers. And I mean, versus a few months ago, I still remember having a conversation with a salesperson of a company that builds apps, and they said, oh, wouldn't it be wonderful if your customers could pre-order and not have any interaction with your baristas? And I said, actually, no, we like that interaction. We really enjoy it. But obviously now things have changed a bit, and government has encouraged actively that we should look for pre-ordering apps. So we've taken this as an opportunity to launch an app for pre-ordering for loyalty, and yes, we have reopened one store for takeaway only, and I'll tell you a little bit about it later on.
Great, thank you. Sonia, quick question for you then in relation to this. What is there anything we can do to help to keep this revenue stream open for these guys?
I think it's super important that we keep the communication flowing between us. I think that we obviously serve these guys as coffee in our business, so there is that customer base there already, and I think the synergies that we could replicate, so things like, for example, if they're selling retail items online, could there be a pre-order system in place within our business that we could actually facilitate that transaction instead of a home delivery? They could pre-order those retail items. I think introducing more of the coffee retail range would really support. And I think, again, I think learning from each other. I think we kind of have this abundance of access to people because they're directly in contact with us every day when they come into work. And I think just working together, I think that's how we're going to kind of make sure that these people are heavily caffeinated. And I think, supporting each other, I think that's probably the way forward.
Yeah. Thank you, Sonia. Matt, I have a question for you, and I think Max touched on it just a minute ago as well. Is coffee being the social experience that it is, how are you going to convey the same personal touch with the addition of the PPE and social distancing?
Well, it was really interesting listening to Max, because we had exactly the same conversations with app developers and had exactly the same response to them to say, coffee's about interaction. We don't want people coming in anonymously and just grabbing a drink and leaving us. We want to hear their stories. We want to hear how their day's going, hear if we can make it better. And yet now, in exactly the same way as Max, we've got the apps coming on board, for the reason to reduce the queues and to stop bottlenecks at coffee bars and still be able to serve people. So I think actually the apps or social media are going to be the way that we continue to engage and to speak to our customers. And maybe it's a few more live broadcasts, live demos, masterclasses and interactions with our customers. So the coffee break may not be going down to the coffee bar anymore. It may be at your desk, but still having a sense of community, because you can log in as we are now with a lot of attendees, with a lot of people and guest speakers. And actually that could be quite a nice thing. You could maybe get people and content from other places, maybe growing regions or from a roastery. So yeah, I think it's going to be the tech that will help us and help us support that engagement, because we were looking at it and we're talking about the face masks and whether it's going to be mandatory or recommended. And it's a difficult one as an operator. I don't like the look of a mask. I understand its importance and would definitely take it on if that was the right advice. But it reminds you of bad times, and it's not something maybe conducive to that nice feeling of seeing a barista and sharing a coffee. If it's necessary and if it has to be a face mask, the options are the full visible front mask that covers up, looks like a surgeon, or the medical mask, which is nose and mouth. We think perhaps we might be coffee bandits and we might wear bandanas or do something like that, just to show we've still got a personality, and situations might be thrust upon us, but we're going to have some fun with it. And, you know, if we can do that and still make someone smile, they probably won't see us smiling under the bandana, but we will be. And I think that's really what we want to do.
That's great. That's I mean, I think that interaction's key, isn't it, really? And you know, people buy from people, don't they, as well, and so trying to keep that balance of the app and the interaction as much as possible is really key. Duncan,
sorry, Shaun, I was going to say, it was an interesting, we were delivering some, and this isn't a plug, by the way, but we were delivering some school lunches the other day. And as I was taking in the trays of school lunches to a community group, I was looking for the right person and the right entrance. And I ended up facing a group of ladies, and I was trying to talk to them. And it was after a couple of bits of the conversation had gone by that somebody to their left gave me a wave and said, "No, it's me you're speaking to." And it just shows, you know, without seeing somebody's mouth as they speak to you, that engagement is going to be awful. So in the sense of going into a coffee bar and ordering coffee, if I look at them and say, "Oh, your flat white's ready," but the person doesn't know who I'm speaking to, or I can't sense who I'm talking to, I imagine there's going to be some interesting moments like that. But hopefully they turn into fun moments, which will give everyone a giggle, rather than just being annoying and causing more queues or drama with ordering.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Duncan, a quick one from you. Do you think consumers' lower disposable income and spend confidence will impact coffee sales? In other words, you know, do you think specialty coffee is still seen as a luxury?
To be honest, no, I don't. I think it's a bit of a cliche, but I think coffee is one of those small luxuries that people will continue to spend on. I don't see that changing, really. And if anything, I heard a new term mentioned the other day, a new marketing term called liberty spending. So, you know, effectively people that are going to come out of lockdown and want to spend more, because there'll be parts of society that are home and their income will be up because they're spending less. So I don't see it changing. I think that the evidence is, certainly from my perspective, talking to some of our customers, that I spoke to a customer last week. They opened for a weekend. They worked out they needed to take, I don't know, I think it was sell 100 coffees a day just to cover their costs. They ended up selling 250 3 days in a row. So there's no evidence. My feeling is, and the evidence that I've got, albeit anecdotal at the minute, is I think people are going to come bursting out of their houses, literally running. And I think one of the first things they're going to run for is the coffee shop. And I think coffee shops, in a sense, or cafes, will replace pubs. You know, for years, decades, centuries, pubs have been the kind of the central kind of focus, community focus of living in the UK. And God bless pubs, you know. But I think certainly for the foreseeable future, it will be coffee, even more so. It will be coffee and coffee shops and baristas that become the focal point. And I think that's a good thing. I think that puts a lot of responsibility on us, a responsibility that we'll all love and we'll all, you know, take it on board. But I just see it increasing, to be honest. And the other thing, Shaun, I think is that I think customers will see it as fairly safe. You know, like it's not like food handling where there could be 7 or 8 processes in some food. and multiple people touching that item of food, generally speaking, it's going to be one human being making a coffee, only 2 or 3 movements, and then passing it over in a safe kind of, whatever it is, safe vehicle of some description. So I think customers will see that drinking coffee is affordable. It's not really a luxury, and I think they'll also see that it's relatively safe.
Yeah, I agree. Max, you wanted to comment on this one?
Yes, I agree. I think the word affordable luxury is a really good one here. We all notice within our confinement, we still like to spend on certain things, certain experiences. I think we're all finding we're buying a couple of luxuries at the supermarket these days to treat ourselves, just because we can't go to a restaurant and we can't go to the pub. So we're buying that nicer bottle of wine or something like that. And I think coffee is very high up on that list. And more broadly, and maybe I'm being a bit too optimistic here, but I think consumers in these times where they have more time at hand, they're becoming a bit more geeky, and they like to read up on things and like to become more informed. And that's quite interesting. I think we've all found ourselves Googling something that we would have never thought we would before. And that's going to drive people to specialty coffee and to better roasted coffee and better sourced coffee. So very much in line with what we are doing.
So we'll see you on Mastermind at some point, with coffee as your specialist subject. Excellent, brilliant. Have we got any questions online, Sonia, that we need to pick up on at this point?
Yeah, I mean, we've had one through from Daniel, who says, with your online businesses growing, would any of you consider expanding that route and maybe start a monthly subscription business, which is actually really interesting?
We throw that one out to Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking at any forms of engagement and keeping our customers close. I think it's a no-brainer for probably all of us, the monthly subscription. It's the sort of thing we can have some fun with, curate really nice ranges of coffee, help people go through their coffee journey.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Thank you, Matt. I've got another question for Duncan. Duncan, are you seeing any challenges with coffee supply at this point? Do we expect to be impacted by the global lockdowns?
Not right now. We're not. A lot of our stock is landed stock, and it's in our warehouse. We're honouring all of our contracts that we've got with our growers, which I think is important at this time. It would be easy to start trying to backtrack, and we're not. However, there's undoubtedly some challenges. There was a Sprudge poll done a week or so ago where they surveyed about 500 growers in South America. Places like Colombia, Peru, Ecuador. The coffee harvest is about to start in those countries. And I asked them, what do you see the biggest challenge being? And overwhelmingly, the biggest challenge that they felt would come is a lack of pickers, a lack of people to pick the harvest that's coming. And the second thing was road closures. They could see road closures being a problem. And actually, last week, I spoke with one of our growers, Pablo, in Colombia. He runs a farm called La Marinela. It's our longest standing 10-year supplier, sorry. And I spoke to Pablo about what is he seeing? What's it like? And he said, well, this was Thursday I spoke to him. And he said, well, up until yesterday, things were great. The harvest was a bumper one. The sea market price is good. We pay well above sea market price, but nonetheless, the sea market price was good, and he was feeling very positive. And then on the Wednesday, 100 yards down the road from the farm, they had their first confirmed case of COVID. This is in rural Colombia, and it sent shockwaves really. And the staff, or the potential staff they would have had coming in to pick coffee, they needed 300 pairs of hands. He was uncertain whether or not they would come, because the advice was probably for them not to work now. And he had a bumper harvest. He needed 300 people this week, and he was worried that they might not come. The second thing, to re-endorse the survey from Sprudge, was the locals were closing down roads, not the police, not the government, but locals were closing down roads because they didn't want workers coming in that might have COVID. And so my view is that right now there won't be, I don't think there'll be a short-term issue with supply. I think there could be a medium to long-term problem depending on the ability. The fundamental thing will be whether growers can get the fruit off trees. The harvests are good, the product is there, it's going to be getting it off the trees. Now, long term, he felt like he was in a good position. He wasn't concerned. There'll be a second harvest, probably early autumn. And he kind of felt positive, but whether or not he gets his bumper harvest in the next 2 weeks is, remains to be seen.
Great. It sounds pretty positive. I'm going to jump on to another question for Max. Max, prior to the COVID crisis, sustainability and social mobility were high on the agenda. Has the current situation changed the focus, and if so, in what way?
I think there's very much still a focus on sustainability and social engagement, but it had to change, unfortunately. I mean, in our case, we work very much with the Ministry of Justice and in prisons, and as of end of March, all prison education workers were told to stand down. We were literally not allowed in anymore. Our roastery can still operate because we're considered an essential food business, but we have no trainees in there, and none of our 8 academies and other prisons up and down the country are running currently. Some prisons are running with some very reduced remote education. Most of them, the state is quite dire, unfortunately. So prisoners are literally locked in their cell for 23, 24 hours a day, just because the Ministry of Justice and the justice sector cannot cope with a pandemic like this. They're not equipped for it at all. Our focus has shifted a little bit, just simply because we can do less. And we are working with the NHS, much like a couple of others, and we are supplying a free bag of coffee for every bag that's ordered in our web store. At the moment, that was a promotion which went very well, and we've sent quite a few bags to a number of hospitals, and we have sent some paint by numbers, coffee related, obviously, activities to some of our trainees in the Mount. But that's unfortunately been the only thing that we were able to do on that front.
Thanks, Matt. Sorry, Max. Same question to Matt. What have you seen?
Yeah, actually, I think it's going to bring it into better focus for everyone. The challenge will be, how do we act on that? The newfound desire to help or to do these things. We've worked with charities, and we've had charities we've worked with before the crisis. We've continued to work with them all the way through, and we will. We do a slightly different prison release charity than Max. So we work with Clean Sheet, and I think the challenge will be, with less business, or potentially less business coming out of this, how do we find the spaces for people? When things were going well, we had lots of opportunities, and we were really able to take people on and to sort of spread that around. It'll be interesting now to see how we can continue to support with training, what that looks like. So the training aspect, we've got a training room in Bermondsey. We'd give away 2 spaces every week for training. We'll still continue to do that, but we're going to have to look really carefully at the guidelines and make sure we're doing it safely. There's no point in carrying on doing something because we feel it's right if we're endangering or we're not acting safely for either our staff or the people coming along on the course. But in terms of what's going to happen moving forward, I think that people have refocused, and actually there'll be a lot more support from our customers and from the wider community, from people we work with, to make sure these initiatives do keep going. So I feel very positive that we'll be able to continue the good work that we've been doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Duncan, just the same question to you, because this is a really important subject, I think.
Yeah, look, I would agree. I think it's more important now than ever. And I think that, I don't know about you, but the hospitality industry has really kind of stood up in this period of time. we're one of the industries that's suffering the most in a way with redundancies or furlough or not being able to work. Yet we're also the industry that's really stepping up as much as we can to support community, support charity, to support the NHS. And actually, I'm hugely proud of that. Never fails to amaze me just how the hospitality industry and people within it are always unfazed and just crack on and get on with doing a good job. Look, we've supported Hotel School for the last 3 years, and they work with the Passage charity, the homeless charity, and we've stuck by them as much as we can over this last 7 or 8 weeks. We had 3 of our guys in there last week, cooking food and serving it at the Passage over by Victoria, and we're working in a way harder than before with those guys, because it feels like the right thing to do, and I think that's important. I also wonder about how we will continue to support the NHS going forward as well, because everyone seems to be doing it right now, and we should continue to do that. We've done a similar job to Max in supporting the NHS. I think we've supplied now nearly 8,000 cups of coffee to around about 8 different staff rooms in ICUs, mainly across the southwest, but also down into the south. And I'm trying to think about now, how do I continue to do that? This shouldn't just be a short-term thing. I feel like we've all collectively started something now, and we need to continue to do it, and not just over this short-term period. So I think that's going to be the challenge. But I think we've raised the bar. The industry has raised the bar so high. We've now got to keep it up, it's not going to be easy.
No, I absolutely agree with you, Duncan. I think the fact that we, as an industry, we've massively stepped up, and I'm really proud of what we've done as an industry as well. But the collaborative part of that, across all sectors, across all businesses, and everyone's really focused. And you're right, we need to keep that link into the NHS is really important. Sonia, what can it's really high up on our agenda in our RA group. So, and I know that you head a lot of this up. So, what do you think the future is for us, and how we move this forward and keep supporting?
I think it's actually interesting just hearing everybody speak about. I think at the moment we're all trying to do things that encourage positive behaviours, and we're trying to recognise people that are going above and beyond. Internally, I know that as our RA group, we've been trying to encourage people to volunteer and support different social causes, but I think what's really high on our clients' agendas as well at the moment is around the environmental impact of what these changes are doing at the moment. We made some real headway with a lot of clients in removing disposables and going to crockery, and real pushes on reusable cups. And I think at the moment we've had to take 10 paces back now by reintroducing disposal into our business, because they are the safe times. I think now is a really interesting time where we are actually being challenged. I think we're all doing some really great things in the social mobility space, but I think where we've got the contentious issues at the moment is the impact that's then having on the environment. And so it's interesting at the moment. I think we need to maintain both of those at the top of the agenda, doing things that I think Matt would like to interject, but I'm just saying I think the environmental issues also need to stay up there, because they continue to be important for the long term.
Yeah, Matt. Okay.
Yeah, well, I was saying it's interesting because different situations throw up different opportunities, and you're right to say about the disposables or reusables, and I think there is actually an answer with that, depending on what style of coffee you're having a day, whether it's a functional coffee or it's the luxury or the treat coffee. And so I think we'll be okay in that sense. And interestingly, what we've done as a business, 2 things, environmental and personal, because we'd supported a bike team before this whole crisis kicked off, and they were a racing team on fixed gear bikes, great bunch of people doing amazing things. It's a youth cycle team. A lot of them, or some of the core of the team, were cycle couriers. And of course, if you think about industries that have been affected, well, we can say hospitality's been one. But I'd say the cycle courier business is definitely one that's taken a massive hit, and did so instantly. Well, we've seen this, and actually what we've done now, we've turned them into our logistics department. So we're all about stay local, buy local. And if that's the case, we can deliver our coffee and our goods on bikes by this team that were there. They were looking for work, so now we've re-engaged them. The other thing of that, the benefit is it's carbon free. So whilst we might be using a few more compostable cups, not reusables, all of a sudden we've changed our delivery system into a really environmentally friendly bicycle delivery system, which also encourages that social mobility. It's getting more people into work that were directly affected by the current situation.
Yep. Thanks, Matt. Sonia, have we got any other questions come up from the audience?
Yeah, we've got loads here, Shaun. I'll just pick a few. Just for anybody that doesn't get their question answered, we will write up the answers in a sec. But so I've got one here from Ben H. Could you do more at this time to bring customers out of the massive high street chains when they reopen and over to specialty coffee shops? I think that's about maybe the distinction and how prevalent you feel that will be. Who would you like to answer that one, Shaun?
So Matt's put his hand up. No, Matt.
Well, for the sake, I don't want to hijack the whole thing, but I think that's really what I said about stay local, buy local. We've all been told to stay where we live and to one sort of place of residence, and I guess that's meant that people have actually started to look around their neighbourhoods, and actually they like what they're seeing. They're walking down the street and they're saying hello to their neighbours, and they're feeling a sense of community. And this is certainly something I've noticed that's changed in a really positive way. And I think that's only going to go on, that they don't want a faceless corporation. They want to support people. They want to see people making a difference. And I think they'll be a bit more savvy with their purchasing and their purchasing power to say, I might need a functional cup of coffee. And of course, I might get them from a well-established chain. But at my discretion, I'd like to support the local community or the local baker or butcher or coffee shop, whatever it is. We see these people more often now. We've got our eyes open as we walk around the neighbourhood, and I think that's a really positive thing. So I think naturally, just because of the way we're going to be working, if we're working from home a few more days a week than we were previously, I think the neighbourhood coffee shop is going to be exactly that. The neighbourhood coffee shop, it'll be a focal point. And generally speaking, those neighbourhood coffee shops are specialty coffee shops, because that was always the point of distinction between them and the bigger brands.
Thanks, Matt. Anything to add, Sonia?
There is another question here for Max, specifically with regards to your hospitality side of the business completely shutting down right now. How will you survive just by focusing on retail till then, or are you pivoting your hospitality side of the business as well? I think that's aimed at Max, and I think that's looking to understand how you kind of see things moving forward if the lockdown or the working conditions continue.
Good question. Our hospitality business is very much in line with our retail business. We're in the same boat. If small coffee shops are not open, that also means offices are probably not open. That also means that restaurants are probably not open. So it's all roughly the same. We are pivoting a bit in the sense that we are, and our own shops are going to be takeaway only as long as we have to, and we see that that business will be one for the future, for the immediate future. Unfortunately, we love having our customers in store. It adds a huge amount of vibe to every coffee shop. The fact that it's full and it's busy, and but for now it's takeaway only. From a bottom line perspective, that is not terrible, because in terms of profitability, I think the takeaway trade, at least for us London-based operators, is the most profitable one. So time will tell how quickly we can break even again with that business model we're pivoting into.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Max, answering that. Interesting. So very quickly, we are coming towards the end. I've got a couple more questions to answer. So, Duncan, what new ways of working will you implement in your business, and how are you focusing on training and retraining? Because obviously that's going to be a really important part of getting back to work.
Yeah, look, I think that's probably one of the single biggest challenges that we're going to face. You know, a lot of what we do is not just supplying coffee, it's then getting into those places, the coffee shops, the corporate buildings, restaurants, hotels, is getting into them and then training those people to make great coffee. I mean, we tell our customers that they can't have the coffee until we've trained them. They can't have the coffee till we've trained them and they've got the right machines in place. That's one of the rules. And actually, one of our new customers rang me last week and said, look, I'm ready to go. I'm going to place my order for the kit. I'm going to open my shop. We're going to do takeaway only, but you were very clear with me that you won't let me buy your coffee until you've trained me. How are you going to do it? And I didn't have an answer, actually. I had to say, I'll call you back. I'll tell you in a minute. But what we have found is that the webshop customer has absolutely loved some of the Instagram stories, some of the training stuff we've done for people at home. They've loved it. You know, thousands and thousands of views. And so my view is, and what we're working on right now, is the idea that we will do the same thing for wholesale customers, at least initially, much more technical, because we're not just teaching a home brewer, we're going to teach a professional, but we'll do a similar thing, but we can't lose the personal touch. So where we've got to go into a store, what we're asking the owner of the store to do is to let us in an hour before the opening of the store, so there's less people, half an hour before most of the staff turn up, so we can get in and do whatever tech work we need to do from a machine perspective. Just give us enough space. And the other thing that we're doing at the minute is we're working on another app, but we're working on a gamification app. So we're developing a little game on how to make coffee through a gamification of a little app. And it's a bit quirky, it's a bit different, but I think the idea is it encourages people to find different ways of learning.
Great, thanks, Duncan. Max and Matt, do you want anything to add to that one? Max?
I don't actually have anything to add to that. I think that was a good summary.
Matt?
Yeah, I think we're all in the same boat there. We want to get in and train people. You know, how do you do that socially distanced? I think actually, in terms of getting people into a building to work, it's possible. Who knows if it's practical, but it's something we'll have to face and we'll have to overcome. So yeah, there's definitely an answer out there. We just have to find it.
Thanks guys, and I think that's a really important part of what we're going to be doing moving forward in our A group as well, is the training and development piece, and I know Sonia will support on that as well. I've got we're running a bit short on time, so I've got one final question to ask you all, and I think this is a really important question as well. So I'll start with Max. Is if you were to go and drink a coffee anywhere, where would you go? And you can't say Redemption Roasters.
I'm tempted to say one of our wholesale clients, Folds, is brewing some amazing coffee right now, and their revenues are actually up these days because people in the neighborhood are actually craving coffee so much that they're specifically walking sometimes up 45 minutes and up to get one of their coffees. So I'd say Folds Cafe.
Wow, it's lovely. Make sure we write all those down. Matt, for yourself?
I definitely, my go-to would be Monmouth in Borough Market, and probably for all the wrong reasons right now, but it's the hustle and bustle of the market, it's the queues, it's the people. But actually what I really love about Monmouth Coffee is their staff and their engagement. I've never had a bad experience there. I've never been in and not felt the love from the baristas. And yeah, I just think that's terrific. So yeah, Monmouth for me. Great.
Dunks, yourself?
Yeah, look, sorry, I've got to agree with Matt actually. I was racking my brain, and Monmouth has been my go-to for, I don't know, probably the last 15 years really. They were trailblazing well before anyone else. They do what they do, they absolutely smash it. They don't mess around, you know. They were doing drip coffee years ago. None of this fancy Hario kettle and 7 minutes to brew. They just bosh the water on, you know, beautiful tasting coffee, great pastries. It's a lovely little environment to sit in. you've got the hustle and bustle of the market, as Matt says. I think those guys absolutely nail it. So if I could, I'd be going there now.
I think that's one when we come out of lockdown, we should all meet there for a coffee, I reckon. So sounds like a plan. Sonia's buying. So listen, I know we could talk all night, but we have got limited time, and I'd just like to thank everyone, all of the panel, Matt, Duncan, Max, and Sonia, and for everyone who sent questions in. I think it's been great insight into our coffee business, and amazing partners that you all are, and how we work together to keep this coffee going. You know, we need to keep the coffee revolution going, and I'm sure we will. So thank you all very much, and I'll definitely go to Monmouth for a flat white now. So our next Future of Hospitality webcast is on Wednesday, and it's hosted by Gavin Goody, and he's interviewing an illustrious panel of experts, including Robbie Barr from Gorgeous Group, David Cheney from Object Space Place, Oliver King from Engine Group, and Louise Pilkington from Compass, and they will be discussing the designing of future restaurant environments. So thank you very much, everybody, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.